The many stars of the galaxy are full of legends and mysteries yet to be truly revealed. Fact becomes history, history becomes legend, and legend becomes myth. But never forget the roots of truth that persist behind all myth, because some myths may just carry the secret behind the power to transform entire worlds, and as a result, alter the entire course of galactic history. Greetings again, acolytes of the Force, and welcome back to the archives. The mythology of Star Wars plays a far more important role than most mythologies do, likely because it's rare that any of the legends of Star Wars are fictional. Almost every old tale that exists in the galaxy contains at the very least a small but important nugget of truth which can be seen affecting the present day. One such legend that we speak of is the canon history of Mustafar, and the one woman that changed it into the volcanic hellscape that it is. Interestingly, it's usually in legends where we get more wild stories of origins. However, in the case of Mustafar, it's reversed this time. The legend's explanation feels far closer to the truth, whereas the canon explanation is one that is quite far-fetched. Some time ago, we did produce a holocron detailing the legend's account of what happened on Mustafar, which was a battle gone wrong between the Jedi and Sith during the old Sith Wars. But the canon explanation of what occurred on Mustafar actually isn't a result of the misdeeds of two armies of Force sensitives, but instead, the actions of a single woman. Today's holocron is the story of Lady Corvax, and everything we currently know about the canonical history of Mustafar. Our source today comes from Vader Immortal, which is considered canonical, though we don't have a specific date of when the events take place. What we do know is that it obviously takes place at some point during the reign of the Galactic Empire, but couldn't have taken place any time prior to 12 BBY. We know this because in 12 BBY is when the final iteration of Vader's castle was completed, and the story is set almost entirely on the volcanic world, and Vader's castle specifically. We believe, though, that the story actually takes place directly in 12 BBY, or perhaps a year later, but very close to this timeline. A piece that we'll explain a little later. As all interesting Star Wars stories begin, the whole crux of the story centers around a powerful artifact, this time known as the Bright Star, an incredibly powerful object that is sacred to the lore of Mustafar. Our story begins with the arrival of Lady Corvax and her husband, Lord Dorwin Corvax. The two of them were off-worlders, who touched down on the then lush and beautiful planet known as Mustafar. In both canon and legends, Mustafar had started out as a vegetation-rich world, much like Tatooine in the ancient days in fact. The two travelers were strong Force sensitives, with Lord Corvax even owning a lightsaber, though it is never stated what alignment he has to the Force, or if the two of them were Jedi or Sith. As the story goes, Lord and Lady Corvax lived in peace with the native Mustafarians, learning their culture and building for themselves a life on this new world. However, that would all come crumbling down as invaders came to the planet. It is not said who these invaders were or what they wanted, but Lord Corvax went out to face them. Just like the context clues, I would actually venture to guess that Lord Corvax may very well have been a defected Jedi, a Jedi who fell in love, a Jedi who left the Order and took up his family's title like Count Dooku did. If Dorwin left the Order simply because of his attachment, then that means he did not fall to the dark side and still carried his Jedi values of defending the innocent. Not to mention, he'd want to protect his home, so it is completely understandable that he'd rushed out to drive away invaders personally. Unfortunately though, Dorwin would be slain in this battle, leaving Lady Corvax heartbroken and alone. And of course, Lady Corvax could not leave the death of her husband alone. Those with power will always seek to change the natural. Of course, Lady Corvax didn't have the power to bring someone back from the dead, but she did know of something that might. The object of great pride for the Mustafarians, the Bright Star. The Bright Star, which was said to have life-giving powers and was tied directly to the beautiful world itself. Using her resources and knowledge, Lady Corvax created a machine that she called the Eon Engine, and then secretly stole the Bright Star from the natives, intending to use its power to bring her husband back from the dead. Unfortunately though, when she activated the Eon Engine, what resulted was powerful waves of energy that burst out and began to affect the world that surrounded her. Mustafar was wrought with tremors, and it was shaken so violently that it was ripped from its natural orbit and sent spiraling through space. The devastation of this event was cataclysmic, and almost everything on Mustafar perished. Soon, the planet would be caught by the gravitational pulls of two massive planetoids that were far closer to their sun. The massive increase of gravitational pressure, combined with the intense heat, almost rent Mustafar asunder and turned it into the burning hellscape that we all know today. The worst part of this story, though, is that the Eon Engine experiment was partially successful, but what it did was trap Lord Corvax's spirit between the ethereal and the physical planes of existence, trapping him in a state of limbo for eternity. Centuries later, Vader would locate the bright star and attempt to use it, but failed because it was revealed that only one of Lady Corvax's bloodline could properly wield it. But that is when Darth Vader discovered their descendant, a smuggler who had no knowledge that they were even Force sensitive. Vader then captured the smuggler and trained them in the ways of the Force so that they could properly use the bright star. However, the very spirit of Lord Corvax influenced his descendant and convinced him to return it to the native Mustafarians, the rightful owners. However, he would ultimately fail as it began to activate and was taken by Vader. Vader, who put it in a recreation of the Eon Engine so that he could bring back his wife, bring back Padme. The engine was about to repeat history as Padme was about to come through, but more waves of destructive energy began to rock the world, threatening to either make its condition worse or destroy Mustafar entirely. The spirit of Lady Corvax came through, and with her husband's lightsaber, began to duel Vader for the fate of the planet. Eventually, the Corvaxes were successful, and they plunged the lightsaber into the Eon Engine, destroying the bright star once and for all. And with this, finally freeing their spirits and allowing them to move on. This was the story of Lady Corvax and the canon origin of Mustafar. But why did we say that the events of Vader Immortal had to have happened sometime in either 12 or 13 BBY? Vader's castle was built by the spirit of Darth Maulman in the year 12 BBY, and it was built 9 times because there was a Force Nexus point underneath the foundations of the castle, with the structure itself serving as a conduit that would theoretically bring Padme back to life. That too was a near success, if not for the betrayal of Maulman. I believe that the Bright Star was likely one of the last in a long string of attempts of resurrecting Padme that Vader tried his first few years as a Sith. Because of that, it is likely that these two events in time are close together, as Vader likely found out about the Bright Star after doing more research about Mustafar itself, and trying to figure out why it was so strong in the Force. It's highly likely that these events happened back to back, as Vader isn't one to give up so easily. But it's possible that he did after this single event. So now, tell us friends, what do you think of our story? And if possible, would you like a comic or a novel that goes through the in-depth idea of Lady Corvax and the secret powers that lie in Mustafar? Let us know in the comments down below. And again, be sure to request myths and other legends you would like to see explored in the lore. As always, my friends, may the Force be with you. Thank you for visiting our archives, and have a great day.